This one goes out to the double bangers. It's the Waiver Wire show. Who are we adding? Who's been dropped? Who should be dropped? Are they the right moves? Nobody knows except for Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd. It still bothers me to this day that Mark Holden on Australian Idol used to call a winning performance a touchdown, yet not give the touchdown signal. What's wrong with that bloke? I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Twitter as always at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 if your bet wins. Go to FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. Thank you also for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free. We are available on all platforms. All right, the waiver wire. We are 3.5 weeks left in the regular season. Some small amount of time left in your playoffs. 3.5 weeks left in your roto season, I'm guessing as well. Let's take a look at the waiver wire. I'm not going to be paying extreme attention to short-term schedules here. You know, we do schedule shows and we've done short-term streaming shows literally all season. This is more of an overview, like a longer term, a view for the next 2.5 weeks of value of players. So take that into consideration versus what your immediate needs are, what your category needs are, what your opponent's doing, all that sort of stuff. I can't hold your hand through all of that stuff because it's impossible. I can't do it for every person. That's what Basketball Monster's for, to be able to put all your details in and see how things match up and how it works against your opponent, individual game projections, all that sort of stuff. We're here to give a bit of an overview across the fantasy landscape. Let's start with guys that I think are must-roster players. These are guys that I look at top 100, top 110 players for the next, say, 2.5 weeks. I am skewing this a little bit more towards total value. So while I just said I'm not paying significant attention to schedule, I lied. I'm paying a little bit more attention to schedule. This is not just per game numbers, but things do get wacky at this point of the year, which we've seen so many times. There's going to be random guys sitting, guys that we don't expect to play that play, guys that we do expect to play that don't play. And it's going to, each week that we go into this, it's going to get worse and worse and worse. Let's talk about some category must-roster players. Yeah, I know he's not very good, but Corey Kispert has the opportunity here to have a solid enough run. I don't know whether Kyle Kuzma or Denny Avdia or Tyus Jones are returning this season. I've got no idea. I couldn't tell you. But what I do know is that I would expect that because Corey Kispert hasn't been given a big opportunity all season, because Corey Kispert hasn't been starting all season, even though he's one of their core players, that they'll give this opportunity to him to see what he can do. Now, the answer of what he can do is probably shoot some threes. Like, that's really, I don't view this guy as a good player at all. But I do think that he sits at 28% rostered. His last game, 16 points, 4 threes. He doesn't do anything else. But I think that in terms of prioritization, at least for the next 2 weeks or so, if those guys, Tyus and Denny, don't play and Bilal's already out, Kispert gets that opportunity first. And then we'll see. Well, maybe we hit April 3rd, then he's done as well. But for now, I do think Kispert has value in category leagues. The points, the threes, the usually good percentages have some appeal. And occasionally he'll chuck a steal in there. The reason I gave that spiel at the top was about, schedules and streaming, because Trey Man's on this is because he's a very, very clear drop at the moment. When you're looking at the overall schedule for the Hornets, he plays one more game this week. That's not worth a hold. But if we're talking about general value over the next 2.5 weeks through to the end of the standard Yahoo playoffs, which takes you through to, April 7th or whatever it is, the value of Trey Mann is, I think, good enough to have on your roster. He is a must-roster guy through that period. The problem is you just can't do it for the next 5 days. If that means you get eliminated in the next 5 days, well, that's not worth having him for that one game. After that, full steam ahead. For now, it is a tough road to run. So if you're in a bye, clear must-roster. If you're in a roto league, clear must-roster. If you're in a situation where you're taking on a crappy team who's berated by injuries, berated's not the right word, absolutely knocked down by injuries, then you probably can hold Trey Mann. But just sort of throw the caveats out there. I think Chase Jackson-Davis is a must-roster guy, honestly. It doesn't seem to matter who's in or out at the moment. He's getting 25 or 22 to 26 minutes off the bench. High field goals, good blocks, good rebounds, scores okay. And it's just very, very clear outside of Draymond, he is their best center without any question whatsoever. And honestly, there are games where he's better than Wiggins. There are games where he's better than Podziemski. There are games where he's better than Kuminga, maybe. Depends what the role is. And they're going to use him, I would guess, minimum 20, unless there's extreme foul trouble, minimum 20 every single night. I've got DeAndre Hunter on that list, and much like Corey Kiss, but I don't really love this bloke as a player. But with the opportunities there, with the absence of Sadiq Bey, Hunter's going to take shots. He's going to. Whether they go in is always the big debate, but the volume should overcome the lack of categorical ability. So I think he probably should be rostered, but man, it is tough for me to actually say that out loud. And the last one is Jalen Suggs. I was on the fence last waiver wire show saying, hey, is Suggs a must-roster guy? Yeah, I think he is at the moment. He can go into the hole very clearly, but his ability to shoot threes, which has been excellent this season, to get steals, primary point guard now, love what he's doing. The Magic are still pushing to lock themselves into a top 6 seed. He's going to play all the way out unless an injury strikes. I think we have to consider him as a must-roster player, old Jalen Suggsy. On the points league side of things, a lot of these names are similar. Jackson Davis is there, he's still only 36% rostered. I am putting Scoot Henderson there, and I resisted putting Scoot on the must-roster category league side just because that field goal percentage and the way they sort of dick him around is frustrating. But on a points league side, the negativity you get from some of his shooting doesn't really impact you that much. And I just think that eventually, we already saw it today, Anthony Simons popped up as questionable with a knee issue. Oh, shocking. What an unbelievable development that is. Just unreal that we've got Brogdon currently out, Grant dealing with a hamstring, and now Simons with a knee. Never could have expected that as we sit here on the 21st of March. Never. So, Scoot is going to have relatively unfettered access, I would guess, I would hope, to a starting role, and hopefully good usage. It's risky, but I'm in. Trey Mann's there, Kispert's there, Hunter's there, a lot of the same names. You could consider Henderson. Calling him Henderson sounds absolutely ridiculous. He's not Henderson, he's Scoot. Like, what the hell? Henderson. That is his name. It sounds wrong, regardless. In a category league, I was so close. But in a points league, I feel much more confident about having old Scooter in that mix for us. Bit more confident with it. Today's episode is brought to you by the legends over at Nissan. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little bit further? Do you ever wonder what adventure could be just around the next corner? Well, our friends at Nissan have a lineup of SUVs with the capabilities to take your adventure to the next level. The 2024 Nissan Rogue is perfect for city drives and great escapes. It's got class-exclusive Google built-in. It's your always updating assistant to call on for almost anything. Gone are the days of connecting your phone. You've got the Google Play Store, Google Assistant, and Google Maps built right into the 12.3-inch HD touchscreen infotainment system. The 2024 Rogue is the perfect mid-size crossover for your next adventure. Nissan's incredible lineup also includes the 2024 Nissan Pathfinder. It's got room for up to 8, an expansive cargo capacity, and advanced available 4x4 capability. With 284 horsepower and up to 6,000 pounds of towing, when adventure calls, the Pathfinder is there with the answer. So take the Nissan Rogue, the Nissan Pathfinder, or the Nissan Armada and go and find your next big adventure. Shop nissanusa.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. Say goodbye to busted brackets because FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the NCAA tournament. Whether you're betting on a big upset or a one seed, it's time to go dancing around, or dancing, sorry, what dancing around? What am I talking about? To go dancing on America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. You can even pick the overall winner of the tournament. So go to fanduel.com/lockedon and bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets. Okay, let's go into the next thing. We've done must rosters. Let's look at droppable players. Maybe.
Get that garbage out of here!
Thanks, John. All right, as you're well aware, what do I mean by saying droppable players? Do you have to drop them? Absolutely not. If they're on your roster and you're looking to maximize games played, or you're looking to add a flyer on a guy or someone who's stepping up because of injuries or tanking or fake injuries or whatever you're going to say, then these guys can be considered move-onable from. Let's look at the category list here. Number 1 on this list, Siobhan O'Heald. Budrick stinks at the moment, and he stunk for most of this season, and he was one that I heavily faded at draft time, and I think that one worked out all right. Not all of them do. That one did. And at the moment, he's just not playing enough. He's coming off the bench. He plays 24 minutes a night. I can name 100 blokes, I reckon. Probably not. I can name 40 guys that you can find on the waiver wire at this point that I'd prefer over Buddy Hield. He'll have the occasional good game, absolutely, but you're in a spot where Melton and Embiid are both out and you still can't do anything. See you later. Man on the street, Jordan Clarkson's next, JordanClarkson. He's injured with a groin problem. This is eerily similar to last season. Who would have thought that? Where Clarkson is inefficient, he's up and down, and he's hurt at the end of the season. So you don't wait for Jordan Clarkson to return. He might return. He might not. Is he going to play out every single game the rest of the season? Let me categorically state absolutely not. Not happening. No chance in hell. Not going on. So you move on. Paul Washington Jr., 63% rostered still PJ is. Now, there's only one game for him left this week as well. It's on Thursday. And if he was a good player, you consider holding through Thursday. But he's not, so you don't. He's a guy that probably needs 35 a night for me to consider really as a useful 12-team league player. Pair that in with a stinking schedule, and Jack Armstrong does his work.
Get that garbage out of here!
Same with Andy Wiggins. He's been bad for the majority of the year. He started to put things together, but the Warriors are full strength. So he's not going to play 32 minutes. He'll play 26. He'll play 29. He'll have shooting issues sometimes. The steals, who knows? He's shooting much better over the last 30, 40 games. But it's not enough for Wiggins to just be absolutely pinned in onto my roster. I go, yep, I'm set with him and I'm good. That's the value, not the value. That's the way you got to view all of these guys. Am I happy with this bloke every game saying, yep, not touching him? Because if you're not going to say that about him, then they go. Or they can go. And I think that's more about this. That's why this section is not called must drop players. It's called droppable. Where you look at them and go, yeah, maybe I can, maybe I don't have to. Jonas Valanciunas. This is the one, like the Trey Mann, it's the reverse. Because the Pelicans are the only team to play 3 games in 4 nights, Thursday through Sunday this week. And that is literally the only reason that you hold on to Jonas Valanciunas. Because he's not a 12-team league player. He hasn't been a 12-team league player for about 4 weeks. Because he's playing 19 minutes a night. Now, if Larry Nance gets hurt, that'll change. But the Pelicans are rolling because they're playing Nance and they're playing Zion at center. And Zion, by the way, looks absolutely unbelievable. He looks unbelievable at the moment. And fingers crossed we get to see him in the playoffs because he is dominating. But the only reason you hold Valanciunas is to get 3 19-minute games over the final 4 days of this week. Because that's it. There's no other reason. He is in the Jose Alvarado, Najee Marshall group of like, hey, I guess we get volume in to give us value. That's it. Otherwise, see you later, Jonas. The other one's Cam Johnson. Sure, Cam Johnson could have been a top 70 or top 80 player this year. He's not. He doesn't play enough minutes. He gets hurt too much. He can't shoot anymore, apparently. Even last game, he came back from his 15th injury last week and started playing 26 off the bench and then played 22 last game. You can't rely upon that. That's what we talk about again, droppable. Is 22 what he does every game? No. No, it's not. But if you're getting 27, but there's the possibility that you go down to 22, I'm not having it. Right? If he was every night 28, you know you're getting 28 and maybe it pushes above, well, the opinion changes. But if you're already mid to below mid, and then there's a risk that you become terrible, well, I'm not dealing with it. There's no point in me holding on to that, I don't think. Points leagues. Similar names, Bud Hield, PJ, Wiggins. I got Mike Conley on this list. Someone left a comment on one of the videos. Is it just me or does this bloke never talk about Mike Conley? And maybe I don't. I definitely did at the start of week 20 when we talked about the Wolves, or even the end of week 19 when we talked about the Wolves having a 2-game week. And I say you do not roster Mike Conley through this 2-game week. He is the definition of a back-end player with very limited upside. In a points league, there is absolutely no reason to be holding on to Mike Conley in a 12-team points league. None. Like, he is a very clear drop there, and he has been for a long time. In a category league, the upside for him is so low that if you are just looking to stream in more games, then he is move-onable from. He's absolutely fine. He's solid. He's good. But there's no upside in it, and there's no spike ability. And in a points league, he just doesn't do anywhere near enough. So yeah, he's easily droppable. OG Anunoby I've got on this list, the old Jedi. I don't know when he's coming back from this second elbow irritation, but what I do worry about that A, it could linger, B, he could come back and then miss again, and C, he's overall just not very good in points leagues. In a category league, you get to the situation where, in the right spot, OG is top 50. In a points league, we don't get there at all. So that's an easy call to drop OG in a points league. In a category league, I think you probably do it as well. And then I just put these last 3 names because Tyler Hero, he's not coming back anytime soon. LaMelo Ball, Sure. And Rowan Barrett. Like, we just don't need to be holding. I don't think Barrett's coming back either, but I don't know. These are just some names that keep sort of getting brought up in the comments, and I'm probably not talking about them enough, and it's going to make me change something that I do at the end of this show as well. But I just don't think you need to hold on to that group of gentlefolk. Let's look at the most added players over the last 24 to 48 hours. Who have people been jumping all over? Well, using our advanced roster metric at Basketball Monster, people have believed in Trace Jackson-Davis, rightfully so. I think he should be added. The second most added player is Keon Ellis. Keon Ellis, yeah. The Sacramento Kings version of Bobby Portis in small man form is going to be a starter rest of season. He's going to probably get a lot of steals. Not many of other stats. Added position blocks, yeah. So if you like yourself a Derek White, but don't have Derek White, and want to get a worse version of Derek White, offensively, but look at Keon Ellis, because he's going to get a lot of minutes. Also, if you want to see something funny, now this isn't funny, but maybe I'm just being an idiot, or maybe I probably am. But remember, you know Davion Mitchell, yeah? The 45-year-old rookie the Kings took in the top 10 2 years ago, whose nickname was Off Night because of how good defensively he was. Go and have a look at his steal rate for this season and how absolutely putrid it is for a guy that hangs his hat defensively. Every time I say that phrase, I just remember something that happened in the off-season and about Jalen Suggs. I won't be doing that again. Have a look at Davion Mitchell's steal rate. It's terrible. Anyway, Keon Ellis, much better. He's a better Davion Mitchell. Harrison Barnes has been one of the most added players. The pencil. I did that back to front, but that doesn't matter. We get to do this. Barnsley's up 20%, and the reason for that is the Kings play Wednesday, Thursday back-to-back. They've got 5 games in the next 7 nights. Barnsley's bad, but volume wins, so that is okay to add. On Yahoo, some of the most added players. Gregory Jackson II, up almost 5,000 teams. Jackson stunk when he first came in. He was just inefficient and did nothing, but he's playing 38 a night. His efficiency is up. I'm all for it. I don't know that it's going to last. I don't know what this Grizzlies team is going to do on a night-by-night basis. If Vince Williams returns, and I don't think he does anytime soon, if Vince returns, GG might go to the bench, but what we're getting out of him at the moment, lovely. Dracaris Levert, up almost 5,000 as well. Donovan Mitchell is dealing with a nose fracture. Nothing else. Definitely no problem with his knee. Absolutely everything's good down below the belt. Well, I don't know. Maybe it isn't. But his knee is allegedly fine. It's not. It's 100% not. I don't think he's coming back until at least April, Don Mitchell. But Karis LeVert just has to be rostered when there's Mitchell out, when there's Strus out with a knee injury that no one tells us about. So you got to have LeVert. And the other one there is Leaky Beasley. That's schedule-related largely. But then Giannis, who Doc said, no, we're just resting Giannis. There's definitely no injury with Giannis. This was on the weekend, on Sunday. He's fine. We just thought this was a great opportunity to give us an extended rest, give him 5-6 days off. It's just rest. It's all good. Well, Giannis is out again because there has never been a man in the NBA who loves lying about players' injuries more than Glenn Rivers. For a man with a medical degree, you'd think he'd have a little bit more understanding of biomechanics and health. But he's either dishonest, upholding his Hippocratic oath, I don't know. Or he's just a general liar. Or he's misinformed. You can debate which side of that it is. Irrespective of that, Leaky Beasley, there's going to be a game here that Middleton sits. Giannis is already sitting one of them. Leaky's going to get shots up. He's not a long-term hold. He's always a schedule hold. That's where we're at with the big fella, Leaky Beasley. Today's episode is also brought to you by BetterHelp. Sometimes we all need that opportunity to get something off our chest. Now, not all of you have a podcast where you can rant about Glenn Rivers and his lack of understanding about injury reporting. I do. So I can get it off my chest there, but you can also get things off your chest to someone unbiased in your life, whether it is about Josh, I wish you'd shut up, about Glenn Rivers. He's actually my dad and I don't like you talking about him. You can talk to a therapist about that sort of stuff. Getting this stuff off your chest is a great way to help work through some of your issues. Now, this is small stuff, right? We're talking fantasy basketball, we're talking the NBA, we're talking sports, whatever it is. It's your favorite team and they made a stupid move. Cool. Small in the grand scheme of things, but small things matter. And having the understanding of getting that off your chest to process other bigger things or working through the tools to deal with those other things is a key part of it as well, and therapy can be that thing for you. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be flexible and suited to your schedule. Suited is such a funny word. Visit betterhelp.com/LockedOnNBA to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Who wants to get wacky with sidebars? What's the funniest word you reckon? Suited's pretty funny when you look at it, especially suited. That's a pretty funny word. Actually, I'll throw this out there as well now. I tweeted it out as well. I think most of you know I'm heading over to Summer League again. We're going to be heading to LA. I'm looking for good places to go shopping, like cool streetwear sort of stuff for me, but we'll see. You see the sort of t-shirts and stuff that I wear with my son as well. It's like, what do you want to do in LA? It's like, it's shopping, man. I'm taking like an empty suitcase. So we're looking for places to go. So if you're in LA, and you know of like good areas to go, interesting shops, probably areas where it's like, hey, here's a big concentration of shops, so we're not like we're going to this one shop here, then we've got a 20-minute car ride here, we don't have that much time. Let me know. Drop them in the comments. All right, I'm sure you care so much about that. Let's look now at the guys who have been dropped the most.
Get that garbage out of here.
Thank you, John. Let's go. Who is on the top of this list? The number one on this list is Duncan Robinson, down 20%. Yep, you move on. He has got a back injury with an uncertain time frame to return. He's not good enough to hold, so you don't. The second one there is Alf Stewart, who's got a hamstring injury. And I would hope that the Pistons really treat this one with the face of their franchise, be really cautious about his return from this hamstring injury, and we move on. He shouldn't have been rostered in 12-team leagues anyway. He's Mike Conley in big man form, except with 100 times more aggression. You just don't need to roster him. And now that he's hurt, you move on. He's got to be out at least a week. I would say 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, hopefully 4. And then Anunoby's been dropped, so people are making that decision to move on, rightfully so. People have dropped Nickeil Alexander-Walker, I get it. Really good stream on Monday, which was lucky because we didn't expect those guys to be out. And then you held on through Tuesday and he stunk. And now they've got a really, really low schedule again. I think it's 2 games in the next 7 nights, which is bad. He's not a high producer. His value disappears significantly if Gobert and Reed both play as well. So yeah, move on. People have dropped Trey Mann. People have dropped Nick Richards. People have dropped Grant Williams. People have dropped Vasily Micic. That is all schedule related. 1 game in the next 5 nights. It's not until Saturday. Clear, easy drops in head-to-head leagues. Unless all those caveats that I mentioned at the start. You've got to buy, you're smashing your opponent, or you're playing Roto. Then you hold because there is some good stuff coming the week after for the Hornets. The rest this week stinks. Dreadful. Really bad. Let's take a look at hot players.
Happy birthday.
I keep hearing that O'Shea Abaja should be on this list, but I don't think he is. Who are these guys that I haven't mentioned who are top 100 over the last week that deserve our attention? Number 1 is Lil John Conchar, 7% rostered. This man racks up rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks. He racks up nothing else. And at the moment, while there's a million blokes out for Memphis again, Conchar's getting a lot of minutes. No Kennard once more. They're still doing the two-way dance with Jordan Goodwin. They're at the moment playing 6 guys 40 minutes or 35 minutes. And Conchar's one of them. So you can use him, sort of. With a level of confidence, it's pretty low. Shout out to them. They re-signed DeJon Jarreau today. Someone told me his nickname is Deaky. Terrible nickname, by the way. And they also signed my new man, Malzinha Pereira, out of the Mexico City G League team. I hope we get some Malzinha minutes. Delano Banton's been a top 100 guy. It's really, really tough to view how his minutes look, but for some reason, they think that this man is the future. I don't know why they're letting him lead the way that they are, but they are. Big minutes, majority of the time, it can always die in the arse at any point. But Delano Banton is rolling. You're going to have issues where he shoots 50 times and hits one of them. You're going to have nights where he goes 27, 7, and 7 with 2 steals, 4 blocks on 52%. But for now, it's looking good. Old mate Vasily Micic is in there. We've talked about him enough. He's very good. Schedule's bad. How about this bloke? Jordan Nwora. He does not... he hasn't really met many shots he doesn't want to take, the Nigerian legend. He is a guy that rebounds well above what his height is. He racks up the occasional sneaky defensive stat. The Raptors are banged up everywhere. I don't hate it. He's at least a stream guy, Nwora. And I think he might turn into a bit of a silly season legend. Sammy Merrill, the most annoying or frustrating player in the NBA. who will go out there and drop 15 threes in 5 minutes or shoot 1 of 9. But everyone is out in Cleveland again. So Merrill is actually being top 100. So we don't even have to look and go, well, what if? Like, the results are there. Just my confidence is low. And the last one is Bubbles 2, Justin Champagnie, Electric Boogaloo. Champagnie in Washington has played a lot of minutes. This all comes down to what happens with Denny, what happens with Kuzma, what happens with Jones. We don't know. We know that Bilal is out, so that does help. Kismet will get first crack. And last game, they started stinking legend John Davis over Champagnie. Again, I would cut Davis immediately just so the coach can't play him. He's trash. Get rid of him. But Champagnie, if Champagnie plays 31 minutes a night, he is a 12-team league player. I don't know why I said 31. I didn't want to say 30. I just don't know that that's going to happen every night. It will at some point, but we're also, like, there's so much on that. Like, what about 20,000 leagues legend Jules Bernard? Like, if he played 30 minutes, I'd be in on that as well. And I think that'll happen at some point too. But for now, Champagnie's probably the guy, and he has put up the numbers. It is risky, though. It is always going to be risky unless we get some more concrete information on the big fellas, Denny Avdia and guys like that. What about some injury replacement players? A lot of the guys we've been talking about anyway have been injury replacement guys. Let's start with Caleb Martin with no Hero, with no Jovic, with no Robinson. Caleb is going to play a lot, and I think that makes him a 12-team league guy. Now, he is relatively mid in terms of upside, but there's enough there. The next one is a 0% rostered legend, Jared Butler, who is a guy that's always had a really good fantasy profile coming out of Baylor, playing for Oklahoma City, his numbers in the G League, and now he gets the chance to do it on the Wizards team who are trash. No Tyus. If Tyus remains out, I would actually grab Jared because Jordan Poole won't be far behind, I'm guessing, in terms of being out rest of the year, if that happens. I don't know. I think Poole might hang around a little bit more, but Jones, I'm a little worried about where this sits for him. Butler played 30 minutes last night and was really good. I'm not rushing to add Jared at this point, but he's clearly on the radar. No one is, or maybe he's not on anyone's radar because he's 0% rostered. He should be. If I'm in a 20-teamer, he's a very easy add, I think. 16-teamer, I would do it as well. Schedule, of course, comes into play. He will be 12-team relevant at some point. Georgie Niang, with the absences of Wade, with the absences of Mobley, who I don't know if he's coming back anytime soon or when that's happening. Max Strus Mitchell. Niang will play 27 minutes, probably have 13 points, 3 threes, 6 rebounds, maybe a steal, 2 assists. Just enough that he's doing. And with how he is playing and the fact that Wade now has a knee problem, I wouldn't be shocked if Niang just starts over Wade while Mobley's out. Like, I thought Niang would have a pretty strong role this season, but he sort of struggled early on. But I think he's going pretty well now. Juice McBride, I've got on this list. I don't know. Last game, with Anunoby out, they started McBride. He played 46.5 minutes because Tom Thibodeau, insane. We know this. Was that because it was Steph? Or was that because he hates Precious Achiuwa? Guess we'll find out. Next game. If you wanted to get ahead of it, you could consider it, but it's very, very obvious that it could be only 20 minutes for Juice. So I put him here with a giant question mark. And I'll tell you what I feel like. Again, we're sidebarring like crazy today. Question mark feels like it should have a different name. Question mark feels like it's the colloquial term. Like, brackets are actually called parentheses. Or like the and symbol is an ampersand. Question mark doesn't sound right at all. Shout out to everyone who speaks Mandarin and the old question particle ma, which is one of the things I learned from learning Mandarin in high school. One of the things I remember from learning anyway. Ni hao. I got Jim Wiseman on this list. Because Isaiah Stewart's out, do they go to a Duran-Wiseman frontcourt? It will be comical for watching purposes, but they've got Noah Sarr. They've got Fontecchio dealing with a toe issue, and Stewart's out. They've run out of options. Irrespective, that means there are no... Well, Stewart's can't play backup center anymore. So Jim's going to get those minutes, and there are going to be nights where Duran gets into foul trouble, or for the 17th time this season, Duran will sprain his ankle. So we're really watching James Wiseman closely, and again, he has been bad for 3.5 years. For the last month, he's been improved, and he's almost turning into like late career Andre Drummond. He goes, if I just do these things, I can have a really strong career as a backup, and I think we might be getting there. And the last guy is the guy that I'm almost the most interested in. It's the sandwich, Patrick Baldwin Jr. I don't know what's happening with Kuzma. I'd be pretty shocked if he plays more than 4 games the rest of the year. Baldwin's had 2 opportunities the last 2 games to start, and there's been something in the way both times. 4 fouls in 9 minutes in the second game. The first game he shot like 10%. But this is a guy that I would not be shocked if we get an 18-9 game with 2 threes, 3 blocks on 50% shooting in one of these games coming up. And you go, Should we be munching on the sandwich? We probably should. Again, much like Jared Butler, much like 20,000 Leagues legend Jules Bernard, much like Justin Champagnie, it all depends on what happens with Avdia, with Kuzma, with Jones, with Poole, with Bagley, with Holmes. It all depends. But in terms of overall fantasy profile, Baldwin's got it. He's got it there. Blocks, points, threes, rebounds. It's all there. Mini Porzingis, and by mini, I mean the smallest thing you've ever seen. Micro Porzingis. Sounds like a disease. Let's look at this last little segment, because I know you want to know answer to this. I'm calling it, are they done? Now, I don't know the answer to this, but are they done? Is LaMelo Ball done? Yes, I think it's, obviously, if you had to drop LaMelo Ball on the 20th of January, you'd be feeling pretty good about it. It also runs that risk of, like, when Desmond Bain got injured and I was like, I think we can drop him, he's not coming back. And now he came back this week and he plays well, but did opening up your IL slot for 8 weeks actually get you to this spot? If you had have held Desmond Bain there, would you have gotten there? I think the answer to that is a lot of no. And while that answer always seems stupid to say, well, you were clearly wrong on Bain, and I was, because he did come back. But I still think dropping someone like that is the right move. And the Ball one has been frustrating because there's no update on it. Does LaMelo come back in 2 weeks? A week? I at this point, I just don't think he's returning. That's the same as dropping Mark Williams. He's never coming back. I'm not even putting him on this list. Denny Avdia, is he coming back? The knee injury looked pretty bad when it happened, and then he was able to get back onto the bench, but we haven't seen him play since. I would say that Denny is pretty close to not coming back. I think he's done. Jeremy Grant, is he done? Partially. I think Jeremy gets in 2 to 3 more games next week, and then he's done. Is Lowry Markkanen done? I think Lowry's got 4 more in him. Maybe, like that Vince Carter meme. I think he 4 more. I don't think Lowry is fully done. I think he'll play. They've got the back-to-back and he's sitting one of them. I think he'll play the next one. He'll play a couple more, then he might be done, is my guess. Is Julius Randle done? Sure feels like it. He's a very clear drop to me. No update whatsoever on him returning. There is an update on Mitchell Robinson. Coming back, he's doing some full practice. Maybe he's back next week. It will be in a backup role. I wouldn't rush to grab Mitchell Robinson, and I wouldn't drop Hartenstein. I wouldn't do anything with that situation just yet. Randle, I think you're okay to move on from. If Robinson does come back, Achua is done then, I think, because he gets no backup center minutes, and we'll see how much they want to play him at power forward with OG out. And the other one is Embiid. Like, you could very easily move on from Embiid. Embiid is not returning at any point, anytime soon. If he returns before April 1st, I will be absolutely falling out of my chair, Joel Embiid. I would think season ends April 14th. Embiid won't be back before April 7th is my guess. So yeah, is Embiid done? I would suggest so. And that's a Waiver Wire show. We're back with a streaming show for Thursday's action coming up later on today. So make sure you're checking that out. But in the meantime, so you don't miss out, thumb it up, bell, subscribe on both audio and video sides. Double bang it. Guys, we're done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.